Today, we're going to deconstruct a revolution in sound. And we're not just looking at a film composer, we're analyzing the architect of a system. A man who took movie music from just being background noise and turned it into a primary psychological force. We're talking about Hans Zimmer, of course, and the systematic formula he built to, well, literally weaponize emotion.
So let's start here. In 1988, facing the massive challenge of scoring Rain Man, composer Hans Zimmer made a radical choice. He deliberately rejected the traditional orchestra and embraced the synthesizer. Now, this one decision, it's the big bang for our entire story. You gotta understand, back then, for a drama like Rain Man, a big, lush orchestra was the default. It was how you told the audience, okay, feel sad now. But Zimmer saw that as a cage. He realized his real power wasn't in playing by the old rules, but in creating completely new ones. This was the moment he decided music wasn't just for listening, it was for feeling, viscerally, directly, from the inside out.
So, to really get how he built this incredible emotional engine, we're gonna follow his journey in 6 parts. We'll start with that huge choice he made on Rain Man, and then we'll rewind to see where it all came from. Then we'll define the formula itself, see how it works, look at its massive legacy, and finally figure out the big lesson in all of this for the rest of us. Okay, let's dive right back into that moment in 1988. Scoring Rain Man wasn't just another gig for Zimmer, it was a huge test. The movie is this really sensitive internal story about 2 brothers who just can't connect. Now, conventional wisdom screamed for a sweeping orchestra to tell the audience what to feel. But Zimmer looked at that and thought, no, that's a lie. The movie's world wasn't grand, it was small, it was intimate. It was seen through the eyes of a character who sees the world completely differently. He knew he had to find another way in. And this was his big aha moment. He got that the story wasn't epic. It was all internal, all psychological. A giant orchestra would have felt like some third person narrating the story. But a synthesizer, with those world music rhythms and digital sounds, that could feel like it was coming from inside the character's head. It was weird, a little repetitive, kind of alien, which was perfect. He wasn't just writing music about the characters anymore. He was building their psychological reality with sound. And that's the whole idea, using sound as a psychological tool to get past your brain and hit you right in the heart. This chart right here, it just lays out the whole revolution he was starting. The old way, on the left, was all about complex technique, following tradition. The music's pretty, sure, but it's kind of just there. Zimmer's approach, on the other hand, is active. It's almost aggressive. It's all about raw emotional amplification. And check out that middle row, systematizing feeling. That is everything. He wasn't just hoping for inspiration to strike. No, he was building a process to engineer a specific feeling, turning music from wallpaper into a force you can actually feel in your chest. So an idea this revolutionary, it doesn't just pop out of nowhere. To really get the precision of his formula, you have to understand the chaos of the guy who made it. It sounds like a contradiction, right? But Zimmer's whole systematic approach was born from a past that was anything but orderly. It was forged in total chaos. I mean, just look at this, expelled from 8 schools. For most people, that's game over. For Zimmer, it was freedom. Rejecting formal training, that should have been a career killer, but it forced him to just invent his own way of doing things. Instead of learning scales, he dove headfirst into experimenting with this brand new chaotic technology, synthesizers. He wasn't just learning an instrument, he was mastering the wild, untamed frontier of sound itself. And this background wasn't just some fun backstory. It was the very thing that forged his entire philosophy. It was the training ground for his formula. Because nobody ever told him the right way to compose, he had zero guilt about breaking all the rules. He could just explore, disrupt. He figured out that the future wasn't about perfecting old traditions. It was about smashing them together with the raw power of new tech. And that chaos taught him the biggest lesson of all, that the most powerful music doesn't ask for permission. It just bypasses your brain and plugs directly into your emotions. Okay, so this brings us to the heart of it all. We've seen the spark with Rain Man and the chaotic fire that forged him. Now it's time to actually pop the hood and look at the engine. What exactly is the Zimmer Formula? Let's break down the mechanics of this sonic weapon. Here it is. The Zimmer Formula isn't a style, it's a belief system. And the keywords here are palpable physical presence. Think about the droning, vibrating bass in Inception, that badoing, or the relentless ticking clock in Dunkirk. You don't just hear those sounds, you feel them in your bones. The idea is that the score should be a physical force acting on you, completely rejecting the idea of music as background filler. For Zimmer, if the music isn't actively hijacking your emotional state, it's failed.
Now, a belief like that needs a foundation, and for Zimmer, it all rests on three core pillars. These are the load-bearing columns of his whole creative process: the emotional map mandate, the subtractive tension rule, and the collaborative ecosystem. Let's dig into each one.
Okay, pillar number 1, the emotional map mandate. This is square one on every single project. Before he even thinks about a melody, he reads the script and he maps out its emotional journey. He asks himself, what is the one core feeling this movie needs to create? For The Dark Knight, it was pure escalating chaos. For Interstellar, it was the love of a father versus the infinite scale of space. And then he designs a unique sound, a signature for that core feeling. The whole score is then built out from that single emotional anchor. Pillar number 2 is the subtractive tension rule. And this is where you see his genius for psychological manipulation. See, most composers add more stuff to build intensity, more strings, more brass, louder. Zimmer often does the exact opposite. He takes things away. Just think of the Joker's theme. It's basically one long, awful, grating note on a cello. He uses extreme simplicity and repetition to build tension until it's almost unbearable. By holding back that emotional release, he makes the final payoff feel 1,000 times bigger. And the third pillar is his collaborative ecosystem. Zimmer knew that great ideas don't just happen in a vacuum. So he built his studio, Remote Control Productions, to be less like a company and more like a creative hive mind. It's this decentralized place where tons of talented composers can work together, bounce ideas around, and experiment with new sounds. And it's not just about cranking out more music. It's about constant cross-pollination. It's a system he built to kill creative stagnation. It's basically an innovation factory. Okay, so we have the philosophy, the 3 pillars of the formula. But a philosophy is just talk without a process. So how does Zimmer actually do this stuff, day in and day out? How do these big ideas become the sounds we all know and love? Well, it all comes down to a few very specific systems and rituals. His main system is all about hybrid iteration. The core idea is so simple: never, ever stop searching. His daily routine is just a continuous hunt for new and original sounds, and he'll use anything to get what he needs. A broken piano, a detuned orchestra, the buzz from a refrigerator, it doesn't matter. For him, anything can be an instrument. His studio isn't a place where music is written, it's a lab where sound is invented. Now, his second core habit is this ritual of creative isolation and visual synthesis. It's funny because his studio is this big collaborative space, but his actual writing process is intensely solitary. He needs these long periods of deep, quiet focus to really connect with the movie. But there's one really crucial part of this ritual. So what's the deal with this? Why does he absolutely need to see the movie before he starts writing? Well, the traditional way is for a composer to write a love theme or a battle theme, and then some editor tries to shoehorn it into a scene. Zimmer thinks that's totally backwards. By demanding to see the film first, he makes sure the music is never just an afterthought. It forces the score to react directly to the rhythm of the editing, the movement of the camera, and the emotion of the performances. The music isn't just slapped on top, it's born from the movie's DNA. So, what happens when you put all this together? The pivot, the chaotic childhood, the formula, the systems, what's the long-term impact? Well, it's nothing less than the complete reinvention of an entire industry. His legacy is as an architect who didn't just build scores, he redesigned the entire sonic blueprint for modern movies. I mean, this comparison says it all. Before Zimmer, the orchestra was king. Music was beautiful, sure, but it was background. The composer was a technician. After Zimmer, the hybrid score, that mix of electronics and orchestra, became the sound of the blockbuster. Music became a main character, a psychological force. And the composer was no longer just a technician. They were an emotional architect. He literally changed the job description for a whole generation of composers. And just like that, the transformation was complete. The self-taught kid who got kicked out of 8 schools became the most influential film composer of his generation. He proved that disrupting the old ways, focusing relentlessly on pure emotion, and having a system for innovation weren't just okay. They were the keys to massive success. So why does all this matter to you? You might not be scoring the next big movie, but the lessons from the Zimmer Formula go way beyond music. These are universal principles for anyone. An entrepreneur, a writer, an artist, anyone trying to create something that actually connects with people. Let's boil it down to the truth you can actually use. First things first, Just like his emotional map, you have to identify the core feeling you want to create. Don't start with what your product does or what your story is about. Start with feeling. What do you want your audience, your customer, your reader to actually feel? Name it. That's your North Star.
Second, once you know that feeling, you have to commit to it. I mean, be absolutely ruthless. Every decision you make, every word you write, every color you choose, it all has to serve that core emotion. If it doesn't amplify that feeling, get rid of it. And finally, remember his subtractive tension rule. Don't be afraid to be simple. Don't give everything away at once. Hold back. Make your audience wait for it. Use restraint to build that intensity, to make them lean in. I promise you, the payoff will be so much more powerful. In the end, Hans Zimmer's entire legacy is built on a very simple truth. Emotion is the ultimate universal language. His journey is a reminder that the most revolutionary path isn't always about adding more complexity, but about obsessively and systematically serving a single, pure emotional truth. His formula gave us all a blueprint for turning technology into a psychological force, proving that the power we're all looking for, well, it's usually hidden right in front of us, in simplicity and intensity.